In June 1962, three inmates vanished from the most secure prison in America. Using sharpened spoons, they dug through crumbling concrete walls, hiding the holes behind painted cardboard grates. On their final night, they left dummy heads made of soap and human hair in their beds to fool the guards. They slipped through a ventilation shaft, crossed the roof, and launched a raft made from raincoats into the freezing waters of San Francisco Bay. No bodies were ever found. The FBI closed the case decades later, still unsure if they survived. Their story became the basis for the 1979 film Escape from Alcatraz, starring Clint Eastwood, cementing it as one of the greatest prison escapes ever attempted. Inside a German POW camp called Stalag Luft III, Allied airmen spent nearly a year digging three tunnels nicknamed Tom, Dick, and Harry. Diggers used bedboards to shore up the walls and hid the excavated soil in their trousers, scattering it across the camp yard. On the night of the escape, 76 men crawled through Harry, emerging just short of the tree line. Most were recaptured and 50 were executed on direct orders from Hitler. The sheer scale and ingenuity of the plan shocked the world once revealed. It inspired the 1963 film The Great Escape, starring Steve McQueen, whose fictional motorcycle chase became one of cinema's most iconic scenes. Henri Charrière, a convicted Frenchman nicknamed Papillon for the butterfly tattoo on his chest, was sent to the brutal penal colony of French Guiana. He attempted escape multiple times, surviving solitary confinement, shark-infested waters, and a leper colony that sheltered him along the way. After years on the run, he eventually reached Venezuela and rebuilt his life in freedom. His memoir, written decades later, became a bestseller, though many details were disputed as exaggerated. Regardless, his story of relentless defiance against an inhumane system captured global attention. It was adapted into film twice, first in 1973 with Steve McQueen, then again in 2017. French criminal Pascal Payet didn't just escape prison once. In 2001, an accomplice hijacked a helicopter and landed it directly inside the prison yard, plucking him off the ground in front of stunned guards. After being recaptured, he orchestrated a second helicopter escape in 2007, this time freeing two other inmates as well. Each escape was executed with military precision and terrifying boldness, humiliating French authorities. Payet was eventually caught again, but his daring aerial breakouts made headlines across Europe. His exploits were dramatized in French film and television, turning him into a folk anti-hero figure defined by audacity most criminals would never dare attempt. In 2015, Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman escaped from a maximum security prison through a mile-long tunnel built directly beneath his cell's shower. The tunnel featured lighting, ventilation, and a modified motorcycle on rails to help him travel underground. Construction had taken months, coordinated by his cartel without raising suspicion from prison staff. It was his second major escape, having previously fled through a laundry cart years earlier. His recapture months later made international news. The audacity and scale of the tunnel operation was dramatized in the Netflix series Narcos, Mexico, turning one of the boldest escapes in modern history into television drama. Serial killer Ted Bundy escaped custody twice while awaiting trial in Colorado. The first time, he leapt from a courthouse library window during a recess and hid in the mountains for days before being recaptured. Months later, he escaped again, this time squeezing through a hole he'd cut in his cell ceiling, losing significant weight beforehand to fit through the gap. He fled to Florida, where he committed additional murders before finally being caught for good. His escapes shocked investigators, revealing how easily the justice system had underestimated him. His crimes and escapes were portrayed in the 2019 film Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. In December 2000, 7 inmates overpowered prison staff, stole uniforms, weapons, and a truck, and walked out of a Texas prison in broad daylight. The group went on the run for over a month, committing an armed robbery that turned deadly when a police officer was killed. Their manhunt became one of the largest in Texas history, ending in a dramatic standoff after a nationwide tip came through America's Most Wanted. One member took his own life rather than surrender. The case's brutality and audacity were later explored in documentaries and crime dramatizations, becoming a defining example of how quickly a prison break can spiral into tragedy. Before becoming a famous con man, Frank Abagnale forged checks and impersonated professionals across multiple countries. After finally being arrested in France, he was extradited to the United States, where he pulled off one final escape, convincing authorities he was an undercover federal agent and slipping away during a layover. He was recaptured shortly after, effectively ending his criminal run. His story of deception, reinvention, and narrow escapes fascinated the public for decades. Steven Spielberg adapted his life into the 2002 film Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, blending real events with dramatized tension to tell one of the most famous con artist stories in history. During the Great Depression, bank robber John Dillinger became a folk hero outlaw wanted across America. While held at Crown Point Jail in Indiana, a facility considered escape-proof, he carved a fake gun from wood and blackened it with shoe polish. Using the fake weapon to bluff his way past guards, he stole a car and drove off, making national headlines within hours. The embarrassment to law enforcement was immense, fueling his outlaw legend even further. His life and eventual death at the hands of federal agents were dramatized in the 2009 film Public Enemies, starring Johnny Depp, cementing his wooden gun escape as one of the boldest bluffs in criminal history.